welcome to the 6th edition of the Chief Auditor series. This is a series that has been conceived, conceptualized by both Dipji and me and Sama Audit Systems to encourage, dynamic speakers to come to our forum and talk about internal auditing, how it means to them, what is the future of internal auditing, how did they go about their life in auditing. And this series is not restricted only to auditors. What we are also going to do is get some CFOs in, get some regulators in, and get everybody who is connected with the audit, get them into the forum and get their views as well. Yeah, Devji.
I think that's right, Satish. We want to get in the educators, the people who are at the helm of affairs of internal audit, so that we learn more about internal audit. The fraternity learns more about it. And Nikhil here, he's been the CEO chief advisor, so he's got a helicopter view of the entire proceedings, entire structure of IIA, what's happening in internal audit in the country and the neighboring countries also. So I think that's very helpful, today. So maybe you can formally introduce him, Satish.
Yes, I'll do that. So I have this very great pleasure in introducing Nikhil to all of us. Nikhil is an ISC from the Doon School. He has done his BA Economics from Delhi University, BA Economics, mind you. He's an FCA, a fellow chartered accountant. He's also done his CIA. He's the chief advisor to the IIA India, and that's what Dipji was talking about, that he'll lend this position of his, will lend a lot of value for all of us. And it's there, he's been the chief advisor since 2019. He is the CEO of IIA India as well. He's a senior partner in JHS. He's a managing partner of Kochhar and Company. So lots of other activities. He's in the board of several companies in India and outside India. And I think these aspects will definitely bring a lot of different ideas for each one of us who are listening in. His areas of expertise is in quite a few fields. It's in corporate governance, strategy, risk management, internal controls, risk-based internal auditing, organizational systems, and this list goes on. And I don't want to come between you and his presentation. So he's also got a host of volunteering work, as I talked to you about IIA Delhi, IIA India, Indian Public School. He's a member of the Fore School of Management. He's executive committee, the Doon School Old Boys Society. I'm sure he's going to be a good old boy. And his sectoral experience is terrific. Advertising, automotive, auto, etc. So I think I'll just stop and request Nikhil to just take over. Yeah, Nikhil.
Thank you so much, Satish and Deepji. You're both old friends as well as respected leaders in the IIA profession. As you have requested, what I will first do is give a brief, maybe about 20-minute presentation on the IIA. And after that, we could follow it up with a Q&A session on any of the points which you wish to talk about. So I will first share my screen and check with you whether my screen is visible to you, and then we'll kind of take it forward accordingly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So yes.
Okay, super. So we'll start with the slideshow first. So it's actually my pleasure to be here and to talk a little bit about the Institute of Internal Auditors, of which in India, I happen to be the chief advisor. I was introduced as a CIA. I'm very happy to inform you that I actually did my CIA at the age of 49. So for those of you who have not qualified, certainly do look at it. And I'm also very happy to see in our Bombay chapter, we've had a couple of leaders, especially Burzin Dubash, as well as Percy Amal Sadiwala, the current president. And Percy and Burzin is on the National Executive Committee as well. Both of them have cleared, within the last 1 year, the CIA. So just to kind of reiterate that all of us, it's never too late, and learning is an ongoing process. So I wanted to actually start off my presentation by telling everyone about the brand new IIA logo. And it's actually got a lot of depth behind it. We actually have a 50-page brand rollout guide. But just to give you some idea, it is brand new. Those 6 little pieces of the logo, which actually talks about how we are covering the entire world, actually represent the 6 continents within the world. And the blue represents the fact that we have a lot of water on our planet, and of course the concern for the environment. And the green talks about the land mass. And again, I think we need to be concerned about the environment. I think most of you would be knowing that the IIA is the profession's most widely recognized advocate, provider of standards, guidance. Everyone knows about the IPPF, International Professional Practices Framework, as well as major certifications, which I will be talking about later. We have more than 210,000 as on date members in 170 countries and territories. I think the profession across the world relies on the IIA to help add strategic value and insight to the organizations they work with. And this comes through learning, through insights, through resources, through professional networking, because of the fact that the IIA can add so much of value. When we talk about elevating impact, the IIA is elevating impact for internal auditors across the world, because it is allowing them and preparing them to do all the various different areas in which they can add a value. And internal auditors themselves can make an elevated impact to the organizations they serve because of the value which they're deriving. So, I just thought I'd spend a couple of minutes on the brand new logo. But if you look at us on a global basis, this is a small breakup of our 210,000 members. You'd be happy to see that today Asia Pac region consists of over 41,000 members. So there is a lot of a significant chunk of people, and of course there is a huge untapped potential. I definitely believe not only in India but across our continent of Asia, or the Asia Pacific region, as well as in many of the other continents in the world. So what is it that the IIA offers? I think we give a lot of access to industry-specific content. You have huge number of proven tools and training. Some of you may be familiar with GTMs, global training modules, which we get from IIA, and which are extremely popular in the trainings we conduct. Of course, we do conduct a lot of trainings. There's a lot of relationships which are available, and those of you who are familiar and in a position to attend our conferences will definitely find that. And definitely last but not the least is not only our International Professional Practices Framework, but the huge number of recommendatory as well as mandatory guidances which are available to our members, and from which there is so much of learning which we can imbibe. These are just some of the benefits which a global IIA membership offers. We have an excellent e-magazine, which is distributed every 2 months. You have a lot of tools and toolkits which are available for members only. We come across with global knowledge briefs on topics which are of relevance to all of us today. Similarly, we have the GPIs, which give us a lot of perspective and insights on specific areas. Something which has come out recently is the on-risk report, on which I will talk about a little more. We have a foundation for thought leadership. We have global smart briefs, both global and industry specific, which you could be getting on a weekly or a fortnightly basis. Again, very, very useful nuggets of information. The pulse of internal audit, we have surveys which talk about what is happening. And of course, members get amazing discounts, which more than many times overpay for the cost of a membership, at least in a country like India, which is, I think, one of the most reasonably priced memberships for the IIA. I was talking to you about global knowledge briefs. These are some of the briefs. 4 steps to starting a data analytics journey. I'm sure Deepji can talk about 100 steps to starting the data analytics journey. He's the specialist in this area. auditing of risk culture, a practical guide. So not only are we talking of auditing culture, I was fortunate to deliver a session, a training session on auditing culture. And this was one of the guides which I could actually rely on very solidly. And there are about 7, 8 detailed publications which help you on how to audit culture. But that's just one out of probably dozens of such publications which are available. How to go about having a DEI program. We do many of these publications come out in collaboration with leading audit firms across the world. Global perspectives on area of compliance and governance, remote auditing, which is something which is impacting all of us on a regular basis today, and the challenges of risks, fraud, technology, morale. The 3 lines model, which was earlier known as the 3 lines of defense and has now been remodeled, talking about the interrelationship between the chief audit executive, the board, and the senior management. This is a report which I was talking to you about. I think this is the third one which has come out. It's coming out annually, where they examine maybe the top dozen risks and provide a very interesting insight, because they give you the viewpoints of the C-suite, the board, and the chief audit executives on the same risks. So what you get is a perspective that where the gap between the perception and the competence and the how these risks are seen at these levels, wherever that gap is wide, it certainly means that there is room and scope for improvement even within the organization on looking at these particular risks. Our foundation again comes out with fantastic research initiatives, and some of our earlier versions talk about the remote auditor and the challenges. How do you assess internal audit competency? I think something which is so relevant for people who are leading larger internal audit teams, or even looking at a self-assessment of their capabilities, and how can we help become more resilient in this VUCA environment which we are all functioning in. To come a little closer to areas, geographies which we are familiar with, many of you are aware that we have our 6 chapters in all the metropolitan cities of the country. And in addition to that, we have 11 audit clubs. Coimbatore is actually missing. It is there, but we have 11 audit clubs across the country. We also have more than 4,000 members. And I think you will see, those of you who have been members, that many of these chapters and audit clubs are fairly dynamic and do a lot in terms of training, events, networking, etc. We also have our, I would say now it's becoming globally acclaimed monthly, which is very, professionally run by our chief editor, Sana Bakai, and supported by Bharat Garg, who's on our national council, as well as, senior leader of the Delhi chapter. They're doing an amazing job. Along with the global, we actually help in conducting quality reviews and maturity assessments. You get a lot of amazing value from conferences, which I'll be spending a little more about. We have leaders from across the world and across industries, really, really well respected people who talk about different aspects pertaining to governance, risk controls, internal audit, and other areas. And as I've mentioned to you earlier, the kind of discounts which you get for certifications and even for publications, many of which are free on the knowledge website of IIA, absolutely phenomenal. And you pay yourself back many, many times over as far as those discounts are concerned. One initiative which I'm very happy that we have started pursuing over the last 2-3 years is we are promoting women leadership in internal audit roles. And in the IIA, we actually have a minimum number of seats which are reserved on every chapter for women members. We have a women's forum, which is extremely vibrant and dynamic. I can vouch for it because I'm one of the privileged people who attend the women's forum as well. And, they are taking so many initiatives that it's absolutely amazing. Coming out with women-centric programs, profession-centric programs, helping with returnships of women who've had to take breaks in their career for family or other reasons. And, I think this is something which IIA India is really proud about. And I'm sure we will continue to do more and more. I mean, in the last, I think maximum 2 years, the women membership in IIA India has increased from about 16-17% to 22% a couple of months ago. So, that is again something which I'm personally very happy about. We've been doing a huge amount of training. When the pandemic hit us, we kind of swiftly swiveled around onto our feet, went onto the virtual mode, and in 2021, I think we did something like 136 programs. So we probably went a little overboard. But even now, I'm happy to state that we are doing close to 2 programs in a week, about 7 programs in a month. And we also do specific tailor-made programs for corporates. So, those of the corporates which have large teams, we structure programs which are based on their specific requirements. And then for those who don't have the time and want to study for the CIA, they actually do this. There is a CIA learning system which is available on an electronic basis. So you can really access it as per your availability. This is again something which is offered by IIA Global. I have mentioned to you that we have a lot of webcasts. These webcasts are both global as well as within IIA India by, again, reputed professionals, experts in their respective fields, talking about current subjects. And these are also archived. So those of you, even I did not know about this till very recently. You can get onto the website and you can access the archived material. So we do have a lot of upcoming webcasts. So for example, there is something which is coming up in March. If you go on to our IIAindia.co website, you will find that all these, as I'm saying, about 7 programs in a month. All the programs which are happening in the near future would definitely be there. But this gives you an indication. The top 3 are international conferences, and the bottom 6 are national and chapter level conferences. Of course, the icing on the cake, we hope, would be the IIA India National Conference on 2nd and 3rd March, which is being done by the Mumbai chapter. A lot of excitement, and very happy to tell you that we have the CEO and President of IIA Global, Mr. Anthony Pugliese, who's going to be there for this, as well as Mr. Alan Johnson, who is the President of IFAC. So we are probably trying to, we hope we should be able to get them into a fireside chat. And that, again, I think promises to be really a scintillating session. And of course, there is so much of learning in all these conferences. Do take out the time if you can. Many of you are aware of the CIA certification, but there is now a certification which comes before the CIA, if you wish, for students who are still in college, who are just out of school, or for rotational auditors who actually come into an internal audit department for a very limited span of time. The internal audit practitioner is a great way to bring yourself up to date on some of the core skills and knowledge which an internal auditor requires. I think most of us are familiar with the CIA. The CIA consists of 3 parts, which, the course syllabus is available on our website as well as the global website. And also very happy to say that we also have something known as a challenge exam, which is available for active members of 17 qualified accounting bodies, including the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, which is relevant to many, many Indian professionals, which allows you to sit for a 3-hour exam over a span of, a 3-hour exam with 150 questions. And if you can clear those, admittedly, it's not a very easy exam. If you can clear that in one shot, you can become a CIA. You get your results within 15 minutes. Your certificate may be within as little as 7 to 10 working days. And then, of course, the CRMA is also there, the certification in risk management assurance. Sometimes people ask, what is the need for me to get certified? I already know what is there to be known. I'm using my knowledge. But the point is, some of the degrees which we get in our country are not globally recognized. If you are in anything related to internal audit or GRC, the CIA certification, the IAP certification, the CRMA are known across the world. So, maybe other certificates may take, arguably a little more effort. But the point is, you need something which is respected on a global basis. It opens up doors in those countries which may not open their doors for you that easily otherwise. And more importantly, you sharpen your skills and proficiencies in the area which you're focusing on, improve your earning potential, and you get a chance to demonstrate your competencies. It's not a very difficult process which involves certification. I think what you really need to do is study, sit for the exam, and just clear it. Of course, maintaining it requires a certain number of CPERs, but that is, I think we are all in a profession of continuous learning. As long as we remain students, I think, we stay happier because we will keep up with the times. I have already spoken to you about the challenge exam, which was very recently introduced just about a year or so ago. And, this is something which is benefiting. We have a lot of people who've been sitting for this exam. 650 people plus have already registered. We've had, I think, over 150 of them who've qualified. Some of them are still sitting for the exam. And, I'm sure that all of them have benefited from it. And many of them have recorded and, presented small articles as to the benefits and how they went about doing it in the magazines which we have. I think this is another area we have, both Deepji and Satish are huge volunteers. So, and that is something which I've also enjoyed. I volunteered in the IIA between, I think, 2007 and maybe 2018. So for 10, 11 years, I was volunteering. And I think more than giving back to the profession, it's learning. If I want to learn about something, the best way I personally find is, conduct a training on it, because then you are forced to learn. You're forced to study the subject. You can author an article, you can, moderate a conference, you can interact with leaders, and, you can get continuing professional education credits, both as a trainer as well as a participant in these programs. Do feel free to connect with us. There is so much more which you can do. And, these are some of the email IDs which you can use. Please, however, note that it should end with iiaindia.co, because earlier it was .org. It could not be renewed because of some logistical issues. We could not get in touch with the service provider. So, sometimes on your website, if you Google it, you may get .org, but that is not what we are supposed to be looking at. So thank you very much. I will now stop sharing my screen. And I do hope that I've been able to tell you a little bit about IIA India in the last 20 minutes, which you had allocated to me after the 4-5 minutes of introduction, and looking forward to having more discussions on this subject based on the questions you choose to ask.
Great, Nikhil. I think it was a super presentation. It gave, I'm sure, I felt I wish I was 30 years younger, and I would, redo this IIA life of mine again with the hand-holding of, IIA and people like you who have done human service for the IIA profession. I think there's some issue. Dipji has dropped out. I tried to reach him on WhatsApp, but it's okay. I'll continue the conversation, Nikhil, if you don't mind.
Please.
Otherwise, probably he would have asked a couple of questions. Now, first things first. Nikhil, you've done so much work for IIA India, and it's not easy. See, in a professional life, you can become the best auditor, internal auditor. You could have your running. If you're in practice, you can have such a big practice. I've seen many people do that. Okay, but in the IIA profession, keeping your job, doing all that is necessary for your personal work, for your official work, how do you manage? How did you get into IIA, and what makes you tick here? What makes you tick, Nikhil?
See, I think it's a very simple answer, Satish. The point is, I am passionate about internal audit. It is something which is very, very close to my heart. I started doing internal audit in the 80s, where, the quality of reports were measured by the amount the reports weighed. So, the more the number of pages, the better a report was supposed to be. And I'm sure you would be able to relate to that in your early days. But it is because of that passion for internal audit that I volunteered. I started by training, conducting training programs in the Delhi chapter, getting to meet people. Then I got onto the National Council. I was involved in advocacy. And actually, this chief advisor role came to me as a bit of a bolt from the blue, because my earlier friend who was the CEO kind of said that he had, he would like to pass the baton on to someone else. And I first said no, but then I said, look, I know everyone, I enjoy this, I enjoy training, so why not? And I think it's a kind of a labor of love. And if you do something which you're passionate about, then it really doesn't seem like work. But I must also thank, in my practice, I must thank my partners who've actually taken almost the entire burden, off my shoulders, and allowed me to spend time on something which I really enjoy. So thank you to them.
You converted that N-O no to a K-N-O-W. Know it. That's the learning I got.
No, there's...
Yeah, certainly.
Please.
Sorry.
For especially, first of all, compliments.
Yeah, did you go ahead?
Yes. Sorry. First of all, compliments are especially the woman empowerment, developing leaders in women and increasing the number of women leaders in IIA. Number two is being just 4,000 members. You look at the number of programs, 136 you said last year, and equal number of programs this year. So it's such a lot of programs where members can really pick and choose, and they literally are coming free for all the members. There are very few programs which are paid. The rest of them are free, available on the site, archived. So no other voluntary organization is doing that kind of work in space. So that's compliments. Now, since you have, you are a binding force, Nikhil, Satish and I have been the past presidents, but we did not have the, opportunity or the benefit of having a chief advisor or a CEO who could work together with us, across the country. So you have been a chief advisor for IIA India, earlier CEO. So you have been a binding force, a strong, foundation for the entire country. So you are at a transaction level, you meet all internal auditors, you meet internal audit leaders across the country and the neighboring countries. So according to you, if you have IIA, but if you look at the internal audit profession per se, so what are the challenges, which you feel our internal auditors are facing in the region, which should be overcome so that we develop further? At the internal department level, at the internal profession level, what are the challenges for the internal auditors?
See, I think everyone, regardless of which profession they are in, are always facing challenges. I think perhaps the biggest challenge is the huge amount of uncertainty, the huge amount of risk in the VUCA environment, which people speak about, is something which has kind of overtaken all our lives. The second thing which is actually happening is disruptive technology. There is so much of technology which is hitting us from all sides. People are talking about artificial intelligence. They're talking about machine learning, data analytics. More than enough about. I don't need to speak about it. Robotic process automation, cloud computing, cybersecurity. There is so much which is happening, and there is a lot of reliance. It's both a potential and a challenge to contribute to governance in an organization. You are the eyes and ears of the board, but how do you become the eyes and ears of the board if you cannot gain the trust, if you don't have the competence and the proficiencies? So I think there are a lot of challenges. And I think if you look at it, the challenges have another side to them, which is also opportunities. And those are in the space of technology, in the volatile circumstances, getting better at risk management, being able to add more from the perspective of governance, going in for continuous learning, because there is something new which is coming up all the time. So I mean, a professional could well justified be in asking, hey, look, am I supposed to be working or am I supposed to be learning? And of course the answer is clear to all of us that it has to be a combination of both if you want to continue to contribute. The fact, I would say that, IIA being a very small organization, but thankfully, I would say that we are highly professional and highly apolitical. If you compare to some of the larger organizations, and I'm not trying to point fingers at anyone, we are all brought together by a common passion and a common love and a common need for becoming better internal auditors. And I think, the challenge is, of course, that how can we grow from 4,000 to 10,000? Many of us do accept that we should be at least 10 or 20,000 members in India, and it's not going to happen overnight. But certainly these are the challenges. And one more challenge, which is not being spoken about so much, is that if you look at our boards of our chapters, they are all graying. We have more and more senior people. So one of the challenges which people don't speak about, but I'm very cognizant about, and we are working towards it, is to get more young professionals into the IIA as a membership. Absolutely. And the way to do that is we are actually setting up a very conscious program for what we are calling learning partners. We do admit we are not marketing people, we are professionals. So what we've done is, for people who want to sit for the CIA certification, I'm sure both of you are members of at least 10 or 20 WhatsApp groups for internal audit professionals. I'm a member of about, I think, 50 or 60 WhatsApp groups. Every second WhatsApp group is asking for more internal auditors because there is a severe shortage of them. So how do we tackle this? This is one of the ways which we have done. Till last year, we had only one learning partner. This year, we signed on a second learning partner, and we are in talks with another 2 to 3. So my personal target is that by the end of this year, we should be having 3 to 5 learning partners. Our first learning partner has gotten 143 people who are sitting for the CIA. If 3 to 5 can do the same job, you're looking at somewhere around 400 to 600, people who are going to be learning about internal audit, who are going to be sitting for the CIA or the IAP exam, and who are going to be getting increasingly professional, proficient, gaining competencies in all these areas. And that is how I think we will be in a position to enhance the supply base for a profession which is in a severe, I would say, shortage of supply. There is a huge demand for these professionals.
Sure.
So Nikhil, just to continue what you said, and I think you made a very fantastic point about education. So let me stay with education for a bit. What do you think needs to be done to make sure that internal auditing becomes a subject in our universities, in our curriculum of other courses, management courses and what? I think, according to me, and may not be fair on my part to say this, I think there's huge scope. Let me put it in a positive way. There is a huge scope. Do you agree? And if yes, I mean, how do we all gang up? I'm using a strong word. How do we all gang up and make sure that this happens?
I think that's a great question, and it is an issue. It is a challenge which we really all need to address. I think one of our biggest constraints, Satish, today is the fact that we are a relatively tiny organization, not on a global basis, but at least within the country. So I think the first thing is to create a larger number of members, make the organization get a little bigger and better. The second thing is to get in for more advocacy. We all realize the need for advocacy, but many of our leaders also feel that we can do better advocacy if we have larger numbers. People will listen to us. The third thing is, how can we do marketing to these universities? And what I was just speaking to you about our learning partners, we actually want to use them as a two-pronged marketing strategy. One is to increase the awareness amongst the students so that they start thinking about internal auditing as a profession which can take them forward. We, the same learning partners, we hope will also reach out to private universities and colleges, not only to make them more aware, but one of the potential learning partners who's just agreed, actually the third one agreed to come on board, we still have to sign with them, is actually wanting to introduce a course on the basics of internal auditing in these colleges. So what we feel is that, introducing these kind of courses into the curriculum would also be wonderful advocacy, would make people more aware. Because when you come out as an MBA, and I think there's a lot of fantastic work MBAs are doing, you are learning very often to control an organization right from the top. But actually, it is an internal auditor who, at a grassroots level, the day he joins, he gets a bird's eye view of the entire organization, because you are getting to see so many different sections of organizational functioning that within a year or two, and I'm sure you and Deepji are both aware that there are so many global organizations which actually insist that if you want to be on the fast track, if you want to be a top leader within the organization, you must do a stint in the internal audit department. And I think, I do hope that our learning partners will help us achieve this objective until we are strong enough to stand on our own feet and have, full-time advocates who could liaise, with the relevant ministries, with the relevant regulators to kind of ensure that internal auditing and the IIA, get their due place as far as recognition is concerned.
Just one more very quick question before Dipji, you can get in. See, earlier we used to always say report writing skills is a great skill to have for auditors. I've seen over the period, as you rightly said, Nikhil, in your remarks, that we were used to a 40-page report and we would get paid by weight, truly speaking, because those time reports used to be printed. But today, I think the profession has moved tremendously and swiftly, and to the effect that report writing today is, yes, it's required, but there are different ways in which people present reports. They use storytelling, they use dashboards, they use so many other different tools. Any thoughts on that, Nikhil?
See, I think what is coming increasingly to the fore, and this is something which I realized both when I did my chartered accountancy and as well as, functioned as an internal audit, that what is actually missing from our curriculum is training on soft skills. And it is not there officially anywhere. But today, if you want to be successful, you have to interact with so many people within the organization. You could be talking to a stores in charge. You could be presenting to a CEO in the audit committee and the board. You would be talking to the heads of departments. And unless you're able to build some kind of a rapport with them, they will never trust you as a friend, as an advisor, as a person who can add value. So first, you need the professional competencies, you need the knowledge of the business to be able to do that. But all of it goes to naught if you don't have relationship building skills. So I think today soft skills are something which are much, much more critical. And if your soft skills are good, I mean, maybe I'm overstretching the point a bit, but then making presentations, making high impact reports, communicating your point to different people becomes so much simpler. So I seriously do hope and wish that over a period of time, we could do more, much, much more on the soft skills front, because I think, that is where you can truly make an impact, provided you have all your other basic building blocks.
Words of wisdom from a true professional. Yeah, Deepji.
Yeah, Nikhil, one other thing, whenever we talk, if we get into mature internal departments or internal departments, internal auditors across the country, you always find people talking about, how you can learn from others. Of course, there are a number of workshops that we are doing, but what about a benchmarking service? What's your thoughts on what's your take on, benchmarking or availability of resources for internal auditors across? So that, the wheel, you don't have to actually go out and do, because a lot of work has already been done by a lot of good auditors, internal auditors across the country. So how do you bring it on a common platform or a portal where you can actually ensure that the auditors don't go out and reinvent the wheel, but actually start building on what is available?
Sure. So I think there is a very clear response and a clear way out of that particular situation. What we do have is a couple of training programs on quality assurance and improvement. So what I feel is what you really need is a sustainable QAIP, quality assurance and improvement program, in every self-respecting internal audit department or function within the country. And again, I wouldn't say it's simple, but it has very clear parameters as to how you're going to benchmark yourself. Are you practicing and using the standards? Are you submitting reports in a manner? Do you have training programs? Do you have need-based analysis of what skills need to be built? Are you ensuring on a consistent basis that you're getting feedback? I mean, these are just some of the points which are covered. But I've been fortunate to conduct this 2-session program on quality assurance and improvement. And let me tell you that if you just benchmark yourself against those standards and some of the mandatory and recommendatory guidances which are available to you from the Institute of Internal Auditors, you don't have to look anywhere else. And if you take this to the next level, even when organizations are fairly mature, we do have, quality assurance services which are being provided. And what we do is, when we submit these proposals, we look at one lead assessor who's actually allocated by IIA Global, and a couple of team members. Now, don't get confused by the name team members. We are looking at people with 20, 30 years plus of experience who work along with this person and under their supervision, guidance, and advice to create, this external quality assessment, or support them in doing what we call an SAIV, a self-assessment with independent verification. So these kind of quality and benchmarking services are available. People who are looking at doing them for the first time, my personal recommendation to them is, go put your entire team through this training program first, because it is like a refresher course on the entire standards. And if you can implement those, then getting a verification or an assessment done is absolutely that much more doable.
Right.
I think this
like
conversation can go. Yeah, I think these things can go on and on, because there's so much of knowledge. So if I just have to ask you a very direct question, we are all sure that the future of internal auditing is great, but do you think that it will the need for auditing from every aspect of business, fraud, all aspects, controls, improvement of controls, integration with risk management, blah blah blah, so many things that is there. How quick you think this profession will zoom up? I mean, what is your take on it, since you've seen it all?
See, I think in many of the mature organizations, it's already been happening, and it's been happening for some time. So I think to some extent, there are two aspects to it. One is, what is the maturity of the organization and the management? How mature are those? Where they realize, and by management, I'm actually even including governance, because the board is also someone who oversees the running of the organization to some extent. They do have an oversight role. So one is that aspect. The second is also on us. How competent are we in order to add value? If you're just going to be saying that, this 500 rupee voucher was not authorized by someone, I mean, then you're not going to be adding value. But if you're able to foresee a risk or talk about a control which can have financial impact or a business impact, I mean, that is when you're actually adding value. And I think both of you are more aware of this, or as aware of this as I am. So, it's that ability to add value. So I would say, as they say in Hindi, ek haath se tali nahi bajti. So, you have to be dependent on both having an emancipated, management, as well as having a mature and a professionally competent internal audit to bring internal audit, to the recognition it actually deserves, which is there in many organizations, but is also lacking in many of them.
Well, thank you very much, Nikhil. It's wonderful. As Satish said, we could just go on talking, because as three passionate internal auditors, we can just keep on talking about internal audit for hours together. So maybe we should, keep talking and exploring, meeting, after this session. But I have this pleasant duty of, concluding this. So I'll just pick out the bright spots that we talked about. There was a session with Shiva yesterday and 2 days back, and we talked about the bright spots. So the bright spots of today's conversation with you was, one is a very small knit, community of internal auditors, just 4,000 plus, are doing such a wonderful job across the country. So many programs, so many archived programs available to internal auditors, so many knowledge bases available for internal auditors to look at. Number two is women's empowerment, a clear, focus on women's clubs, accelerating their career path, developing the leadership roles for women. So excellent initiative, and doing really well, and the measurement systems in showing how they have improved from X number to Y number in the overall membership, which you talked about. Then your particular role in terms of as a CEO and now as a chief advisor, of binding all these together, which has really played a very important part in enhancing the impact, the effectiveness of the deliveries for the country as a whole, for the internal profession as a whole. Bringing in learning partners, which will give the depth, because this small group cannot have that critical mass. So, till we increase the membership, we have to ensure, as in Institute of Internal Auditors, to ensure that, to have the reach, to have learning partners who can go out to universities, who can go out to, professional organizations, to deliver, to create more certified internal auditors, to create more internal auditors, to impart more training. So I think that's really another great initiative which IIA has taken. And two things which you pointed out very clearly. One is the uncertain future, and number two is the disruptive technology. Two things which are going to impact the internet, or already impacting the internet, function per se, irrespective of the organization the internet is working on. Two things that are clearly standing out for every internal auditor, and the management is demanding a lot from the internal audit profession. So uncertain future, uncertainty in what is happening around in the external context, in the internal, organizational context, and also the disruptive technology. So internal auditors will have to be agile, will have to really work towards ensuring that they meet these two, face these two things, and ensure come up on top. And I think with leaders like you and all the other internal auditors who are there in the country, it's going to happen. So on a positive note, I say a lot of good work is being done, and we will continue to grow as the internal audit profession. Because I think both Satish and myself, both are past presidents. I also had the chance of being on the academic relations committee, IIA Florida, for 3 years. So, and Satish has been on the council. So really, I think there's a bright future for internal auditors, and all this is going to help the internal audit profession.
So if I may just make two remarks, or make 2 points, before we close for the day. Point number one is, I would really like to thank all the volunteer leaders across the country. You both are amongst them, and there are so many of them who've done so much.
Absolutely.
It is not humanly possible for one individual to do this. Today, I think 70, 80, 90% of whatever good work which we are doing is in no small measure thanks to the huge number of volunteers we've got in very, very senior professions. That is something which, I would like to clap my hands for all these volunteers. The second point which I want to make is, we really, because of the technology issue which you were speaking about, we need to make sure that we induct a lot more techies into our boards, into our functions, into our departments. I think there is a crying need for that. That's something which I had not mentioned, but I think these 2 points, I thought, I would not be fair to this platform if I did not talk about these two things. So I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, absolutely fine, Nikhil. This was much needed, your comments on this. But you did in passing mention the young leaders to be inducted on the volunteer leadership, So if you induct more young leaders, they would be technology better geared, and techies would get into the, overall volunteer leadership, and that will really help the profession. So I think, thank you very much, Nikhil, for sparing time, for coming on board, sharing your thoughts. I think Internet has a great future. Thank you very much, Nikhil. Once again, I thank you, Satish, and I am thankful to you for coming onto this platform and speaking to us.
Thank you for creating this platform and giving us all an opportunity to discuss these points. Thank you so much.
I'll just say I'll just crack a small joke. In fact, this session, I had the pleasure of doing it from an outdoor location since I've come here on a short holiday. So I saw the sun, it was bright when we started. I saw the sun set. So when the sun has set, actually, it's not the sunset, the moon has risen. The sun will set the sun will rise again tomorrow, and the auditing profession definitely is in safe hands, in your hands, Nikhil, being the advisor to the IIA India, and the profession is in very, very safe hands. We knew it in the beginning, but it has got with full conviction. I can make this statement.
Thank you very much, Nikhil. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.